Mm-hmm.
So when did you first get involved with the union, and how did that come about?
Well, I was involved in a surplus, and this was during the dinosaur program that was going on, and that was the time frame when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Now he was high on the dinosaur program, but his Secretary of Defense, I think it was
McNamara?
I think it was McNamara, yeah, didn't like the program. So when Kennedy was assassinated, he canceled that program, and I was a lead on that program, and we were working overtime. And as soon as they canceled the program, we went from working 7 days a week. And my first assignment after he cut the program, I was on the burr bench.
Oh boy!
And you know what that is.
Oh yeah.
And then later on, I got transferred to Renton, and over there I was a rivet bucker, and I still hadn't been cut. My wages hadn't been cut yet. I think I was making more money than the supervisor over there. But anyway, that's a new story. But the lady I was bucking rivets for was a black lady, and she was real nice to work with.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So well, that was just another part of my resume.
Could you go back then and explain what the dinosaur program was?
That was a missile program that was the design of the dinosaur program was to put the vehicle into space. It was a small vehicle, of course. It was shaped like our current vehicles, but much smaller. And but I think it was designed for defense purposes. And I think it would have been a good vehicle, but McNamara didn't like it, so it got canceled. And so that stirred the pot.
So how long were you in Renton then?
Boy, that's a long story. I was in Renton several years. I can't remember exactly, but I was in Renton in the Blue Streak, and I had a problem with the supervisor I was working for, and we had the EA system or PA system at that time, and the supervisor didn't like me because I was from Wichita, and he felt that he was being put down by Wichita supervision coming into Seattle. But anyway, he gave me a bad EA, and I filed a grievance against that EA. And I won the grievance, so he had to give me a better EA. Well, the very next EA that came out, it was worse than one before. So on my interview, a supposed interview, I didn't have an interview, I was told to go up and have a meeting with the supervisor to discuss my EA. And I was sitting there waiting for him to come in the office or in the conference room. He came in and he threw the EA at me and he said, "Can I use foreign language?" Anyway, he said, "File a grievance against that blah, blah, blah." And I didn't even talk to him. I walked out, and outside that office was the general supervisor's office. So I just walked out and walked into his office, told him I had a problem, and explained it to him a little bit. He says, "You want to transfer, don't you?" And I says, "I want to get away from him as soon as possible." He transferred me to the wind tunnel in Seattle for more money than I was making there. So that general supervisor, I think his name was Rodriguez, but he was a real nice guy, and I didn't think he thought much of that supervisor either. But anyway, that's when I got involved with the union, when I went to the wind tunnel complex.
And who were some of the people who kind of brought you along?
Well, Kurt Drake was a friend of mine that worked in the wind tunnel complex, and suggested I put in the transfer to the wind tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And so that worked out pretty good when I coordinated with that general supervisor where I wanted to transfer to. And so anyway, he encouraged me to go there, and this general supervisor got me a transfer for more money than I was making. So that was a good move. But while I was there in the wind tunnel complex, the union steward in that area was being transferred someplace, and he was going around talking to people to see if they wanted to be a union steward. And I was one of them he talked to, and he wasn't having any luck getting anybody to go. And after he talked to me, I told him to, if you can't find anybody else to do it, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't find anybody else, so I got the job. And then I started dealing with the district office, taking dues books and getting them transferred up at the dues office. And that's where I first met my first secretary. And you know who that is. But anyway, that was something I don't know if I should talk about or not, but I had a real good secretary. And it was, why can't I think of her name? Vi Couples was my secretary when I got over there. And she was in the dues office. She was the lead in the dues office. And I got associated with her on my frequent visits to the Union Hall, and I was high on her. But anyway, Al got elected as district president.
That was Al Wydick?
Al Wydick was elected district president, and called me in and interviewed me to be his administrative assistant. And I had met Al when he was on staff before he got elected in voter registration. Him and his wife and I and Bev worked on voter registration. And anyway, I got that job as the administrative assistant, and then later was elected as a business rep with Creed Munson. Mm-hmm. And we ran against Bill Waccama and Jerry Shreve at that time for that election. And that was exciting. I'd never been through an election before, so that was a new experience. But
why don't you talk a little bit about that experience and
what
it was like being new through it?
Well, it was certainly new to me. I'd been in the shop for 25 years, and getting elected a business rep was a big step, because I had never dealt with people and dealt with the company. And so once I got in there, I got sent to school in Colorado to learn arbitration and grievances with the company and so forth. And also I got sent back to Placid Harbor to learn some more about being a business rep. And so that was, a challenge. And but I enjoyed the challenge. It was nice.
I'm Tom Lux with the Machinist District 751 Labor History Committee. Today's date is August 20th, 2014. And today we're going to talk to Don Clemons, who was a business rep with Machinist District 751. And welcome, Don. And why don't you tell us a little bit, first off, about your family, where you grew up, and your childhood.
Sure. Well, I was born in Des Moines, Iowa in 1930, and I had two older brothers and a younger sister. And my dad was a union carpenter, but we did have a farm, and he worked in the town, but my two brothers and myself and my sister and my mother, we took care of milking 30 cows. And then when the war broke out, my two brothers went in the service. One went in the Navy and the other went to Merchant Marine. And so it was necessary for us to sell the farm and sell the cows, and we moved to Des Moines, Iowa at that time. And my two brothers, after the war was over, came back, and they started driving trucks and joined the Teamsters. So the question if we were a reunion family, we certainly were. And my dad educated me about the difficulties of the unions in the 1920s, 1930s, the sacrifices and killings that went on the picket lines, and it was pretty tough. And when I was going to school in Des Moines, I got a job at the Anderson Erickson Dairy there in Des Moines. And of course I was only 14. My dad had to sign an agreement for me to go to work, get Social Security sign up, and he said, now the first thing you do is join that union. Well, at that time I was 14. I didn't know what a union was, but he told me all about it, and it was a real. The early unions in this country in the 1920s and 30s were really having a difficult time. So the question about whether we were a union family or not, we certainly were.
Do you remember which union it was that you
I just don't remember that.
Yeah.
That's just been too many years ago.
Yeah.
But I think it was AFL-CIO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now your dad was a carpenter, so was that construction or?
Construction. He was a, well, he was a cabinet maker, but
Okay.
he belonged to the Carpenters Union. But most of his work that he really liked was doing the cabinet making, and but then he did the carpenter work too. He kept busy the year round, regardless, and taught me a little bit about manual labor.
So how did you come to Boeing from Des Moines?
Well, after I got married, Bev and I took a trip to Wichita, Kansas to see her folks. That my father-in-law was working for Boeing, and my mother-in-law was working for Beech Aircraft, and they both belonged to Union at that time. And during the visit there at Christmas time, December 1951, my father-in-law said, Boeing is hiring right now. Why don't you and Bev go see if they'll hire you? Well, they hired both of us. They hired her, and she went to work right there in 1951 in December. And I had to go back to Des Moines and close up our home and move everything in a trailer down to Wichita. So that's where I got started in working for Boeing in Wichita.
And so you actually joined in 52 or 51?
Yeah, in January. I went back
52,
in
yeah.
the first week in January of 1952. I was back down and working at Boeing, and I joined the union at that time.
And was it a right-to-work state back then?
Boy, I don't recall.
You
I
just
don't
know
recall.
that you joined the union.
Yeah, I don't recall whether it was or not.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. I just can't be sure about whether it was right to work or not.
Yeah, maybe not. That was shortly after Taft-Hartley.
Mhm,
That's
yeah.
something we can look up. Now, what kind of work did you hire into when you first
Okay,
went to
I hired in as a status clerk at Boeing in the tooling area. And after doing that for a period of time, I don't remember the time frame, I joined, or I changed over, transferred into manufacturing, working on building tools at that time.
Was that a job that you really liked, or?
Well, yeah, I liked it. Yeah, it was a, challenging type job, and you look forward to going to work every day to renew your your efforts on that particular job.
Yeah. Now, how long were you in Wichita at that
Just about 7 years. I
7 years.
hired in actually, I went to work in 1952, January 52, and then we moved to Seattle in November of 58. So it's almost 7 years.
Now, did you have any union involvement other than membership? In
No, I
Wichita?
just paid my dues and
Mhm.
went with that.
Okay, and then what drew you to Seattle?
Well, Wichita was going down at that time. They were in a recession, and a lot of people were getting downgraded and laid off, and I just felt it was urgent that I see what my future would be, and it didn't look too promising. So I went to Boeing Personnel. I heard that other people had been transferring to Seattle. So I went to Personnel, and they wanted my resume, and I gave them my resume, and they offered me a job in Seattle. And they paid for me to go to Seattle. They paid for the trailer that I pulled in Seattle. And I got 5 days to get there. And I just about didn't make it because of the bad weather.
Yeah.
That was another problem. I had never been west of Kansas in my life, and I didn't know what I was running into.
Yeah, some areas
Three-
aren't quite that
A
flat.
wife and 3 little kids, and it was a real challenge.
You had 3 kids already then?
Yeah, yeah.
So did you transfer into the same type of work, into tooling?
I was still in tooling, but I transferred into Blue Streak area in Seattle. And that was a good job. I really enjoyed that.
Now, was that in Plant 2?
And I was at Plant 2 at that time, yes. Mm-hmm.